Hey guys, Peter here to do an EP review. Today I'm here to tell you about Scour The Black, out November 27th on Nuclear Blast. This EP has 6 tracks, 16 minutes in length. Now this is a super group led by Phil and Selmo. This is their third EP and this is their best one to date. I felt that the two previous ones were a little bit more experimental. You weren't really sure, and you felt like they weren't really sure of what their sound was going to be like, of what the track construction is going to feel like, and how they were going to put things together. This one feels a little bit better defined. Definitely the approach is better defined. The overall release has more of a directional purpose, and it's definitely more focused in what they want out of the band, what they want out of the sound, and they're closer to that point where you could feel that they've discovered their soundscape, their DNA, their fingerprint. Having said that, there's still some cookie cutter elements across some of the tracks. There's some repetitiveness in the approaches that they need to better define. You can create a soundscape that's unique to you. That doesn't mean you have to repeat some of the same elements. It takes a little bit away from the impact and how these songs come across. It starts to feel repetitive at times, and that is definitely present on this EP. So this is something that they can work around, or at least work to eliminate in future releases, and put something together that's very unique to them, but once again doesn't repeat itself. You can find an element that you really like that's going to become part of who you are. That doesn't mean it has to be in the forefront on every single song. Now, talking about the tracks on this release, let's start off with the opening track, Doom. Very driven, very heavy track. I love the siren at the beginning. It's almost an alarm. It wakes you up for what you're going to get from the rest of the EP. And I love the fact that they incorporated that siren into the overall soundscape, into the overall atmosphere, and then later on into the guitar riff that really permeates, is really driven, that permeates throughout this song. It comes in and goes. It starts off at the beginning of the track with that riff that's very penetrating, and then it comes back again later on into the track, and in the middle you just have a song that moves at a very fast pace, is very heavy, is very robust in the way it's constructed, in the way that it's put together, both musically and vocally. I really enjoyed the backing vocals that this track has to offer. It added a little bit more darkness to the song, it added a little bit more presence, and even a little bit more heaviness, because this is a heavy track musically and vocally, but the backing vocals add a little bit more substance to the overall presence that the track has to offer. The guitar solo is really interesting as well. It's very melodic. It's almost completely different from everything that you're getting on this song. It has a somber atmosphere to it. It has a somber touch to it, and that's what surprised me about it, because it doesn't really pull from any other element that's already existing within the track. It almost feels out of place, but it adds such an incredible vibe to the song. It adds such an incredible undertone to how this song comes across and to how this song feels. It's chilling. That solo is very chilling, and then it permeates itself into how that guitar riff is very penetrating, that siren that it penetrates into the riff that allows the atmosphere to become the sound and allows the sound to become the atmosphere. Incredible opening track. Next, Nail. It's another relentless song. The vocals feel like they're dragging a little bit. They don't feel like they're matching the same intensity that you're getting out of the track, but still it works to perfection. One feels like it's moving very fast, coming at you, like I said, in a very relentless way, and that is the sound, the overall presence that the drums, the guitars have, and then the vocals are more spaced out. They feel like they're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. The dynamic between the two elements works very well throughout this track. You never feel like the vocals are being left behind. You just feel like the vocals have a lot of substance. They have a lot of layers to it. They're very thick in the way they're coming across, and then the music behind it is just really pushing the song forward. The combination of these two elements really helps bring the lyrics to life, because it adds this incredible atmosphere that gives the lyrics a different meaning, that gives the lyrics a different sense. So this is a song that really created an atmosphere that enhances the message within the lyrics. Next, Propaganda. A really interesting track because the drums are very heavy and they really push the song forward. I felt like if there's one element on this track that's behind the driver's seat, it's definitely the drums. They're really pushing the song. The guitars come along, they help the drums, they help push that sound forward, but they have a more defined purpose, they have a more defined atmosphere, they give you a different element. So the drums are pushing you and the guitars are kind of guiding you along on that journey. And it's the vocals that come in and they weave themselves between these two elements that are doing two separate things to the track. So the vocals come in and they weave them together in order for the song to feel together as one, to feel very concise. Now that sound of that guitar riff, that penetrating guitar riff that we got in Doom, that felt like the siren was moving into the guitar riff, we get that again in this song Propaganda. We also got a little bit of that in Nails. So it's an element that permeated through 3 tracks in a row, and it became a little bit redundant by the time it got to Propaganda. It felt like we've heard it already. It felt like it didn't add anything new to the song. It didn't really move the song, move the needle one way or another. It just felt a little bit out of place. While it worked really well in Doom and even to a certain extent in Nail, by the time it got to Propaganda, it just felt flat. And it took a little bit away from the power and intensity that this song has. Next is Flames, a very methodic song. Compared to the previous 3 that are coming at you in a very relentless and aggressive way, Flames moves in a much more methodic approach. It has a slower moving aspect to it. But just because it's moving slow, it doesn't mean it's losing any heaviness whatsoever. This song is still very heavy, it's still very strong, both musically and vocally. It just doesn't have the same explosive nature, at least in the first half of the song, because once the solo comes in, the solo is very aggressive. The solo is over the top, it's intense, it's very dynamic, it has a lot of aggression built into it, and then the song after the solo becomes what that solo was, and it's a complete departure from how the song started. It started very methodic, it started very slow, very heavy, dragging out. That solo explodes onto the track, and then the song becomes something completely different. This is a Jekyll and Hyde type of track, where if you're listening to the song before the solo, you think it's going to be one thing. If you listen to the song after the solo, it's something completely different. Next, Microbes. This is a really interesting track. This is an instrumental interlude. It starts off with a piano. It grows into a full-blown orchestral type track, and has a very interesting atmosphere to it. It works as an interlude, and it works as an intro to Subprime, which is the last song on this EP. I love the nature of this track. I love how beautiful it is, how dark it is, and the atmosphere that it creates. I want them to do more like this. I want them to create these incredible interlude tracks that work as intros as well, and that just have so much beauty and darkness and pain and suffering all in one. This track is magnificent. It's magnificent for how it sounds, and then how it allows itself to merge into Subprime, and then Subprime just explodes onto you. Like, you're just not expecting that you're coming from this beautiful, almost cinematic interlude into a track that is just very aggressive with a great tempo, very heavy. Subprime is absolutely destructive in how it sounds and how it feels and how it finishes. The drums are very powerful, perhaps the song of all the tracks on this EP that has the heaviest drums of them all. I just felt like they were so strong, they were so powerful, so dynamic. They took over the overall soundscape. There are tracks on this release that have that sense of the drums being in the driver's seat, like I mentioned, but not like this one. This one has a different dynamic. It has a different construction. It definitely has a different approach. The drums become almost everything about how this song sounds and how this song feels. The guitars are there. They create an ambiance. They create a driving sound as well, but everything is about the drums, about how heavy they are, how powerful they are, and how they move the track along. I love the construction of this song. I love the elements that it has to offer. There are a lot of similarities between Doom, which is the opening track, and this song, and how the two tracks are constructed and how they are delivered. The elements that they have within them, there's a sense of beginning, there's a sense of end, but there's a lot of similarities between these two. These two tracks are almost twins in how they're put together and how they are delivered, with some elements switching roles. I felt that in Doom, the guitars had more of a predominant role with the drums in the background. In this song, the drums are in the forefront with the guitars in the background. But as far as the construction, there's tons of similarities between these two tracks, so it's perfect that one is the opener and the other one is the closing track. This is it, Scour the Black, out November 27th on Nuclear Blast. Let me know your thoughts on this group, on this release. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.